Well, it's November 1917, and a British politician just made a very fateful declaration that one day will lead to the creation of the State of Israel. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, we need to rewind a few years earlier to the First World War, as part of the Ottoman Empire. Palestine was largely under the control of the Turks, and as such, when the British went to war against the Ottomans, they took it upon themselves to also conquer Palestine. They were successful in doing so, and at the end of the war they were given control of Palestine through a League of Nations mandate. The idea was that the British would govern Palestine on behalf of the League until such time that they were deemed capable of governing themselves. The British were also given the task of facilitating the establishment of a Jewish national home in Palestine. This was all well and good for the Jewish people living in Palestine, who had been yearning for a homeland of their own for thousands of years. But it wasn't great news for the Palestinians, who had been living there for just as long. Despite this, the Balfour Declaration was received with much fanfare by the Zionists around the world, and it encouraged many more Jews to make aliyah or immigration to Palestine. The increase in Jewish immigration led to tensions with the Palestinian Arabs, who felt that the British were encouraging Jewish immigration in order to replace them. And so, it proved difficult for the British to keep the peace between the two communities. On top of this, the British had promised both the Jewish people and the Palestinians that if they were to support the other, then they would be given independence after the war. Needless to say, both the Jewish and Arab leaders felt that the British had betrayed them. In 1936, the Arabs rebelled against the British rule in Palestine. But they were unsuccessful, and the British responded by cracking down hard on any form of Palestinian nationalism. After the Second World War, the Jewish leaders felt that the British had fulfilled their side of the bargain, and it was now time for the British to leave and for the Jewish people to establish their own state in Palestine. The question was how to go about this. One suggestion was to allow the Jewish people to establish a state in the southern part of Palestine, while the northern part would be incorporated into Syria, which was under French control. This plan was rejected by both the British and the French. Another suggestion was for the Jewish people to establish a state in the Negev desert in the south of Palestine. This was based on the idea that the Jewish people would only accept a state that included all of historic Palestine. With the British now leaving, the leaders of the Jewish community in Palestine met up with the Jewish Agency and decided to unilaterally declare independence from the British. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, the leader of the Jewish Agency, proclaimed the establishment of the State of Israel. The following day, 5 Arab states, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Syria, invaded the new State of Israel in an attempt to destroy it. The Israelis, though outnumbered, were prepared for this eventuality and managed to hold off the invading armies. Eventually, a ceasefire was called, and the fighting ended with Israel having expanded its territory beyond the borders that had been proposed by the UN. The fighting between the Israelis and the Palestinians is what is known as the Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic. It is the name given to the mass expulsion or migration of Palestinians from their homes during the war. It is estimated that between 700,000 and 1 million Palestinians were expelled or fled their homes during the war. So why is this important? Well, when you have millions of people living in exile, it can lead to ongoing issues such as anti-Semitism among that group and the desire for revenge. And this is still being felt today. Okay, that's the end of part 6. If you want to watch part 7, where we look at how the Israelis defeated the combined armies of the Arab world, then you're going to have to become a member. I'm guessing you want to know more about ancient history, right? Well, why not check out my podcast, Ancient History News? We discuss all sorts of topics from the origins of the Olympic Games to the lost city of Atlantis and everything else in between. There are loads of new episodes available. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.